everyone. Welcome to Chain Out, your favorite disc golf podcast, or soon to be. I'm Jeremy, and with me as always is your co-host, Darryl.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing good.
Good. You excited for episode 7? First one of the new year.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
I know what that means.
Everybody knows what that means.
Ready? Happy
New Year! I got there in the end.
You did get there. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Last episode, we wore our Santa hats the whole episode. I think they were a little more subtle than what these are.
Well, I think when I showed you, you said that I looked like a New Year's Eve jazz singer.
Yeah, but that was until you turned the lights on and your glasses started flashing.
I thought that was quite subtle.
Well, there you go.
All right, yeah, we got to take them off. I think I'll have
a
migraine.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, Happy New Year to everybody.
Welcome to the first episode of 2024.
Can you believe we blew the show budget on the props already, and that was it?
Yeah,
30 seconds and we're done.
When you start with a $7.25 budget, it goes pretty quick.
Exactly.
Between that and our general sweat labor, right?
Hopefully, we're here by next year, and we'll just repurpose it next year.
That would be good. We'll just have to scratch off the 4, put a 5, and
no one will notice.
That's right. It's going to be hard with the glasses, I think, but
yeah.
So
how have you been?
I've been doing good, doing well.
Good.
I've been excited for this episode. You know, we started out with 6 episodes last year, and kind of getting our feet wet and cutting our teeth, I guess you could say.
Getting better every week.
Yeah. And hopefully always getting better. So by the time we look back on these, we'll be going, wow, boy, did we change.
Yeah. How did we get any subscribers when we used to look like that?
That's right.
But then again, there's other podcasts out there that, to quote them, I'm not going to give them a plug, but when they look like potatoes, you know, I think our quality has been, I think we've advanced our quality pretty quickly, pretty soon. So
if we look like potatoes, it's just our general shape. It has nothing to do with the video quality.
There is a joke there, Jeremy, but I'm not going to say it.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll let people insert that in the comments.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully our audio and video are definitely getting better. Hopefully that's not the only reason you're subscribing and watching these. Hopefully our content is getting better as well.
That's right, and you're enjoying. We're trying our best to give you a little bit of humor and some things that you're interested in that all relate to disc golf. That's our primary goal right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we enjoy disc golf. We enjoy talking about disc golf. Hopefully you enjoy listening to talks about disc golf. And if we can bring a few smiles along the way, then that's all the more benefit.
That's right. Well, Darryl, it is going to be 2024. It's 2024 here, and one of the things that people tend to think about when the new year turns is, and sometimes it's a bad word, sometimes it's a great word. It's that word resolutions.
Yeah, comes with good things and bad things.
That's right. And thinking about resolutions, I wanted to talk about, do we have any resolutions ourselves for 2024? Mainly related to disc golf. Do we have any disc golf resolutions personally? Do we have any resolutions for the show as well? And if you want, I wanted to start you out with something I probably haven't told you before. But last year, I got myself a little kind of, what do you call it, like a poster board type thing?
Yeah.
And what I did was I drew a disc golf basket and put it in the middle in a circle. And I called that the bullseye. And then I put another circle around that and called that circle 1, and another circle around that and called that circle 2. And I put all of my goals on there saying, well, if I can throw to circle 2, that's okay, circle 1, but I really want to get to bullseye. So when it came to disc golf last year, I put on there things about tournaments. So what I did was I said, you know, if I can play in 2 tournaments, I hit the Circle 2. And if I could play in like 7 or more tournaments, I could hit the bullseye. Well, I hit the bullseye. I did that one without
that's a
problem.
good start. Yeah.
And then the other thing I did as well in there was I didn't know much about the PDGA ratings. All I knew was that as soon as I started playing a PDGA sanctioned tournament, I would get a rating. So once I did that, I said, okay, let's just throw out some numbers. And I was like, okay, Circle 2 is 800 rated, Circle 1 is 850, and Bullseye will be 900 rated.
Okay.
Those were my goals. Well, I played my first tournament, came out of that, and I think I was like 738 or something.
Right.
So
did you have to readjust your targets at that point, or did you just leave them as they was?
No, I left them as they were and said, I'll get better.
Okay.
And what
positive.
Well, and by the last PDGA rating that actually impacted my score, or my rating, the last tournament I played, I ended up just over 800. So I hit my Circle 2 goal, so I was happy with that.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So using that as an idea or a setup there, is there anything that you're thinking about for 2024 for your disc golf resolutions?
I don't really make resolutions because if you hit them, what next? And if you don't hit them, then you feel bad for not hitting them. But I do like your idea of having it maybe in stages. So it's not necessarily that if you didn't make if you didn't make the bullseye or you didn't make your resolution, then you failed. I think having it on a Circle 1, Circle 2 bullseye kind of grading scale, if you will, I think that's a good thing to have it. Because that way, you may not make your initial target, but, you still achieve something out of the year, right? So it doesn't look so bad.
That's right.
I don't really think to say that I have hard targets. I could say things like try and play my own game more.
Right.
It's always the way that whenever you play, by the time you get to like hole 16 or 17, you're not playing the best. Maybe whatever your best may not be. You may not be. You may be at even and you wanted to be -5, or you may be at +3 and you wanted to be at even. Whatever it is, you tend to find that when you get around to like hole 16, 17, round hasn't been going the greatest. You tend to relax a little bit more. You throw a lot better. I just realized I still got the necklaces on. I think they suit me.
They look well. They look good.
Yeah. So what I've noticed is try and take that feeling and start with that feeling on hole 1. Just try and relax. Don't think that, okay, this is going to be a great round. I'm going to shoot -5 on this round. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Just take it as, okay, I'm going to relax and I'm going to throw. Because we always say it, player 2 always plays better than player 1. And why is that?
Because 1070 rated is usually the way I say it.
Exactly, because you throw your first shot because all that pressure is on that first shot to try and make the basket or make your up shot or whatever, whatever that scenario looks like. But when you take it again and when you take that second shot on player 2, it's always, this is what I should have done. And then you just kind of toss it up there. There's no 10-second, practice swing or anything like that. So try and start on hole 1 with a more relaxed attitude, and I don't want to say enjoy it more because I enjoy it no matter how I play, or I could shoot +10, +13, and I would still.
You could you?
It has been known to happen on occasion, and I still enjoy it because I'm out playing disc golf and I'm getting exercise and I'm out with friends and everything like that. So I never not enjoyed playing disc golf. But I feel like if I just relaxed more and played that relaxed player 2 kind of ability straight from the go, I think that will have a knock-on effect, and I think my game will, the shots will come down, and I'll be playing a little bit better then. Yeah,
that's a great resolution to have, is just to kind of go in with less stress and less pressure on your game. Because at this point here, I think I played just over 2 years. You're kind of working on a year. We've got enough of a game now that we should be comfortable. We shouldn't be confident in it because I know I still go for, I know where I want to put it, but I can't put it there. But it seems like the more relaxed I am, the better chance I have of being closer to that line that I'm trying to throw on. So
yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, that's kind of my the New Year's resolution for me anyway, and I guess for the podcast, a good New Year's resolution, the new year going forward, we're hoping to have more guests on, more exciting new features, things like that. Just make the podcast grow, basically.
Well, and that's a nice segue there, my friend. Thank you for that. For me to talk about the guest that we're so excited to bring on for our first episode of 2024. We are really excited to have a guest for you. This is a person who is a local Edmonton Area FPO player. Yeah. Very, very active in the Edmonton community, and we can't wait to talk to her about that. She's also super passionate about supporting women's disc golf, both in Edmonton and anywhere that she can show that support. So if you haven't guessed already, because maybe you're new to the area or new to the Edmonton disc golf area, we're going to be talking with Kristin Swirles, and I think we have her ready to bring on.
We can bring her on right now. Hello, Kristin.
Oh my goodness, do you guys always have that applause for everyone?
Only for special guests.
Yes.
I was not expecting that at all. That was so fun.
Well, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I am happy that Tim was here to help me figure out the technology to join the podcast. It should be so simple.
Kristin, I feel that Darryl has to do that with me every week most times. He's explaining one thing or another. Last night it was templates, I think. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, good.
Oh yeah.
Me then.
Yeah.
No, the amount of work that goes on in the back end is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's really rad that you guys have just like dove into making this podcast, because I feel like so many people think like, oh, I want to start a podcast, but the work that's involved to make it and then to get it out to people, it's a lot of work. And so I'm in a lot of admiration that you're just forging ahead and you've built it and you're doing it and it's happening. Like, it's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thanks. We actually just talked recently about what was the origin story of it, and we realized that the origin story of our podcast happened out at Wetaskiwin, just during around there, where I very meekly and timidly kind of whispered an idea into Darryl's ear to see what he thought about it.
Yeah,
well, that's all it takes sometimes.
Yeah, we were talking about it, and we said that, we'll do it. We'll put it out there. We'll have a discussion. We'll put it out, and if anybody listens to it, great. If nobody listens to it, we're enjoying doing it. So it doesn't hurt to do it, and luckily it seems to be well received at the moment.
Perfect. That's perfect.
So before you came on, Kristin, we were hyping you up a little bit because you are one of the most well-known FPO players in the Edmonton area. You're always fantastic to talk to. You're always involved in everything Edmonton disc golf and everything women's disc golf as well. But so we were talking a little bit about that, but I had said to Darryl, I said, what's the best way to get a little background on a person? I said, let's pretend that you were a superhero. And every superhero has an origin story, and we're not sure if this is your origin story, like maybe you were in a laboratory where they were making disc golf discs, and all of a sudden a spider came down and bit you on the hand, and all of a sudden that hand could throw discs like nobody else. I'm sure that might not be it, but why don't you give us a little bit of history into the listeners too of how you found disc golf and got into it?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I feel like I need to put a superhero twist on it.
Oh yes.
I told you.
There is no need for that.
I gotta get. You've made me creative on the spot. Okay, I can be creative. Well, so I have been playing disc golf since about 2016, very casually. I would say if I was a superhero and it was like an origin story, I would be like whatever normal girl in normal world who has normal athletic abilities, and she kind of plays disc golf and is not very good at it and doesn't even really like it. That's
way to put our guest on the spot, Jeremy.
Well,
so that's kind of like a way of saying that I feel like my intro to disc golf, it was like before the big disc golf boom of 2020. And so I met Tim, and he had started disc golfing the summer of 2016. And you'll have to ask him his origin story sometime, because it's much more interesting than mine. He has a comic book. You can see it like scene for scene in a comic book. Anyway, and yeah, I started disc golfing a little bit with him casually, and I was like medium on it. Like I was like mild. Maybe my comic book character is like eating nachos with mild salsa. I don't know. I was really mild on it, and I played alongside Tim for several years. Just sort of like, I had my 3 discs that he had given me, and I played for like 3 years with 3 discs, and just kind of like sometimes went out when I felt like it. Other times he's like, want to go disc golfing? Because he was hooked the way everyone gets hooked. And I was like, no, and I was like, no, not really. Like, I don't really love it that much.
Really? That's how you started?
Yeah. So I was doing other sports. I was listening to the podcast, and I heard, and I don't know if I knew this already, Jeremy, that you used to run marathons.
Yes.
So at the time in 2016, when I first found disc golf, I was doing triathlon.
Okay.
So a lot of my like free recreational time was spent swimming and biking and running. And like for someone like yourself that does marathons, you can attest to like the long training hours. Like I didn't have time to go throw a frisbee in the park. Like I had a 2-hour run on a Sunday morning, and I had to go to the pool the next day and whatever, right? So it took me a while to get into disc golf.
Well, and as you say, as marathoners, all we ever had to worry about was running. We just had to schedule our runs. But as a triathlon person running triathlons, you have to worry about your run, you have to worry about your bike, you have to worry about your swim, all of those things. And I don't know if this is the place to tell you, but I got to tell you maybe I'm going to do it quick, Darryl. Can I tell a sidebar story?
You can tell a sidebar story, then I need to tell a story as well.
Okay, so my quick sidebar story for you, Kristin, was when I would run and I'd do my long runs on the weekend, and we'd have groups come out from the running room, and we'd all join up there and then head out there. I had a triathlete running with me as well. And she was talking to me, and we were talking about, I said, how far are you trying to run today? And she said, oh, Jeremy, I don't run distance, I run hours. So she was training for an Ironman or the Iron Woman athlete type thing, and saying, I'll run for an hour and a half. I don't really care how fast I run or how far it takes me. I just need to get time on my legs. And we were talking about that. And I said, the biking would be really tough for me, is what I think. As a runner, I would have trouble on the bike. She said, you know what, Jeremy? Once I got aero bars, riding the bike was easy. And I'm like, really? I'm like, do you think that would work for running? And she looked at me funny, and she said, I don't know if the aero bars would work for you for running, Jeremy. And I'm like, I just never thought that chocolate would be a good thing to have for a sport. And that's when I learned that aero bars are actually the bars on the bike that you hold on to.
Oh man, that's a wonderful sidebar.
if only aero bars helped you with triathlons.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was the bubbles in them or something that just gave you that extra boost.
So the fun fact sidebar that I wanted to bring up is probably around 2015, 2016. I was training for triathlons.
Oh!
Yeah. But the thing is, what I find with triathlons is if you're running and you get tired, you can kind of walk, you can kind of jog for a little bit. If you're riding a bike and you kind of get tired, you can coast for a little bit. My problem is I didn't know how to swim. And if you don't swim, then you kind of sink. So I was taking lessons and I was hitting the pool. I was on a schedule. I would go 6 days a week, bike, run, swim. And then on the weekends, I would either do like a bike swim or a run bike. Yeah. The dual athlon aspect of it, just to try and get that portion. But yeah, unfortunately, I just couldn't get my distance on the swimming, and I always get out of breath and get tired, and then by the time I'm getting to the other end, I'm flailing around, and I never actually got to enter one. But I was training.
Yeah, well, that's a start.
The goal was there.
If you don't swim, you just drown. That's for sure. I had a friend. I have a friend, and her motto before every race, when we would go to races, was just keep swimming. Just
like Dory.
Just start swimming and don't stop.
Right.
That's awesome. Well, the last sidebar that I will, can I have a sidebar now?
We can do sidebars
Absolutely.
all night. Hey,
and then I'll finish my origin story.
Yeah, I wanted to bring us back there at some point.
Yeah, we'll circle back.
I want to come back there because I do actually just want to, I don't want to go on and on forever, but I will tell you how I got into disc golf, other than, how I got into loving it as opposed to being so blasé about it.
Yeah, because I think we're only really at about 2016, 2019 casual play, just when you're ready to pick up.
Well, the sidebar that I wanted to have is that I also have been listening and watching the podcast, and I noticed you guys must always film in the evenings, because I noticed Darryl often has a cocktail of sorts. The first one he had a glass of wine, and then I thought you had some sort of mixed drink, and then you had a beer?
I had a beer.
Was that all in one episode that night?
No, that was 3 episodes. So I thought that I would have a beer with you guys, and I am doing a beer advent calendar countdown.
Oh, nice.
With some friends, and we bought beers and wrapped them up for each other.
Yeah.
So this is a 9. It looks backwards on my screen. I don't know how the viewers will see it.
Can see it.
Looks good here. Yeah.
So this is number 9. I don't know what beer I'm drinking tonight. I'm going to open it right now.
That's awesome.
So we can all find out together. The big reveal. Yeah. Number 9. Oh. Old Beautiful Eternal Twilight Dark Lager.
Oh, that sounds like it's right up Darryl's alley.
Yeah. Have you had this, Darryl?
I haven't had that one, but okay, if we're going sidebars, they'll bring out another sidebar. For a period of about 2 years, I used to brew my own beer. We could have a whole episode just on beer. Okay, we gotta need to. Maybe me and Kristin can set up our own side podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's very cool, Darryl, and yeah, I do want to hear more. We'll have to go for a round, and you can tell me about your home brew, because
absolutely.
I'd love to hear about it. You don't still brew beer.
And if you're not getting the picture of it already, just so that all our listeners can know, if I run into Kristin, if we happen to run into each other at a disc golf store or something like that, it tends that my 5-minute pick up a disc, whether it's because I won't stop talking or because Kristin and I are just having a great conversation, it's about 35 minutes later before we part ways.
It's true. It's really true. I felt a little nervous to come on I've never been on a podcast, so I was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous. But then I'm like, well, Jeremy and I always just talk forever. No one can shut us up, so I'm sure it'll be fine.
Definitely.
Exactly. Yeah, we never had any worries about bringing you on the podcast. We were thinking, oh, what's it going to be like? Are we going to run out of questions, or is there going to be dead air? And we're like, no.
No, not even a question.
The conversation's going to flow. We're not going to have any issues there.
Right on.
But I do feel bad, though, because I wish I'd known that you were getting a beer. Otherwise, I would have had a beer. I'm just drinking water. I mean, I can go and get one.
You're only having water. Oh, dear. I only did it. Well, I shouldn't say I only did that, because I saw you. I was going to have this tonight anyway.
Either way, it was happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm on the Christmas countdown. I can't stop now.
Yeah.
No, but if you're on beer number 9, are you not a little bit behind at this point?
I'm actually, I think I'm a little ahead.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. It's not a 24-day countdown. It's a 12. There was So there was 12 of us, and we each brought 12 beers wrapped up, and then we exchanged, so you go home with 12 different beers.
Awesome.
And so I'm actually a little bit ahead. I only have 10, 11, 12. Oh no, I only have 3 left. Oh no, I have to slow down.
Yeah, well, but you've got that one started, so you just go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I will.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Have you?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to talk about beer now. Have you had any bad beers? Have they all been nice beers? Do you have a favorite?
They've all been nice beers. I don't know about a favorite. I've had a couple new ones to me, a couple that I've had before, and yeah, nothing bad yet. That's for sure.
Nice. Do you have a favorite style? Are you more of a lighter, an IPA? Stout, lager?
I have no discrimination against any type of beer. I love them all. It depending on the mood. Like I love lagers. I don't love wheat ales. I find like when I drink wheat ale, I kind of have a little bit of a physical reaction. Sometimes I'll get really flush when I drink wheat ale.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I love dark beers. This dark lager is already tasting really nice. I'm
not fond of sour beers.
Oh no, yeah, well that's you got to be the right environment, I guess. If you want to give sour beer a second chance, I would say try it at brunch with eggs.
Oh, interesting.
That's quite specific, but I'm up for the challenge.
I was told a long time ago when I used to work at the Sugar Bowl, and there's a lot of beer aficionados there, and I was told that gozas specifically go very well with eggs. So next time you're out for brunch, if you're feeling like I want to give a sour a second chance,
that's the time to do it.
That's the time to do it. I've been told I have to go and drink a beer with eggs now.
Yeah, tomorrow morning or for Christmas.
Yeah.
Anyway, so origin story. Yes, I played. Oh my God, here we are. I played from about 2016 until 2019, very casually, 3 discs in hand, just whenever Tim would go out and I felt like joining. And in about 2019, I was still sort of just like tagging along. So I think he thought like, okay, I think I can get her more into it. So Tim would start getting me discs. So he bought me a Thunderbird, and then he had this like really old lightweight destroyer, and he like handed that down to me, and he started building up my bag a little bit until I got to a point where I was like, excuse me, the beer. Oh no. I had more discs than I could carry. So I was like, and then we were playing in the summer and it was warm, and I was like, I need a water bottle. So then it was about 2019 when I was like, you know what? I think I need a bag.
That's the next big step.
Right? And I mean, most people, I know you guys included, you get to that step within weeks of playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You start and you're like, okay, like I got to get a bag. I got to get all these discs. I was like 3.5 years in. I was like, I think I got to get a bag. It was 2019, so there was no Gander disc golf yet. We went to United Cycle, and they had like one shoulder bag, so that's what I bought. And once I had my bag and a couple more discs and my water bottle, I think I started to feel more like I was out. I wasn't just out throwing frisbees, but I was out playing a round of golf, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it took a couple more years, the big boom of disc golf in 2020, and then it was 2021 when I was like, I'm kind of enjoying this, but I only ever played with Tim for like, now we're coming on close to 4 years. I only ever played with Tim, and I was like, I kind of would like to see how I stack up. I've been playing for 4 years now. I need to see if I'm any good at this. So then that was kind of my incentive to register for a tournament. I wanted to play with other women. I wanted to play with other players up at my level, and just sort of challenge myself that way. So I played the 2021 River City Cup.
Ooh, that's a good one to start with.
Yes, and then that was my aha moment. Most people have it like the first time they go out disc golfing.
Yeah.
I had it like 5 years in playing River City Cup, and I was like, oh, I'm actually not bad at this. And like, there was so much to learn from the other women, and there was so much to experience, I guess, and so much that I saw that I was like, I want to do that. Oh, I want to throw like that. Oh, she can throw like this shot. Like, then I started, like, the wheels really started turning for me in 2021.
You just had to be in the right situation to get that moment.
I did. Yeah. And I don't want to come on the podcast and speak on behalf of all women playing disc golf, for sure, because it's not that. But I do think that for a lot of women that play with probably mostly men,
right?
You don't necessarily get that instant, like, competitive spark, or I didn't anyway. You're just, like, not seeing other people that are throwing like you necessarily. So the tournament experience for me was awesome, and I really loved the competitive aspect, and then took off from there.
So with this slow burn that you started with over that time, and then you hit River City Cup, I'm not going to make any assumptions of the way the path went, but did you jump right into FPO, or did you take it the same way that we did, and you said, okay, well, I'll just go into the lowest division I can and see how I do? Which way did you approach it?
Kind of. That's such a great question, Jeremy. Kind of in the middle. I was really logical. I looked at, like, where the PDGA, like, when you register for tournaments, they're like, look at this link, and I read, like, all the divisions on PDGA's website of, like, if you can throw kind of this distance and you have this shot in your bag, maybe you're this material. So right. I placed myself in FA1.
Okay.
Wow.
Because I thought, I just read what the requirements were, and I thought, okay, like, I think I can kind of play like that, or close to that. So I just placed myself in FA1, and I played FA1 that whole year, and was just sort of, like, right in the middle. Like, I felt at home. I felt, like, competitive. I felt like, okay, like, I'm not getting clobbered by all these women. Certainly I wasn't winning, but I was also not at the very bottom. So I was like, okay, like, I'm kind of competitive with the FA1 ladies.
You found your level, yeah.
Yeah, so I was really lucky to have just found my level, and I honestly just did that by, like, reading the PDGA advice, I guess.
Right.
Now, the second year, I moved up to FPO, and I can tell you what made that decision for me. But once I moved to FPO, I found myself wishing that I had just started an FPO. And it's probably different for the men's side of things than it is for the women's, because there's such a smaller group of women. So there's just, like, way less of us. But I was like, man, I should have just started FPO. Like, because the year in 2022, the year I spent in FPO, that's when I really, like, grew and stretched. And I really believe for all players, like, you need to play with people, like, above your skill level in order to increase your game. So yeah, I played in FA1 my first year, and that was 3 tournaments.
3 tournaments there, and then moving up to FPO. Now, one thing I want to ask you about is that Darryl and I, like, when I started out, I jumped in and I read like you did there, but when I couldn't understand half the words they were talking about, hyzer what and turn over this, I just went into MA3, MA4 and worked my way there.
Yeah.
That's but
okay.
Once we got... Yeah, and then I moved myself a little bit up and down, and then I realized about the age-protected divisions. And so I found myself in the MA40 division, and what I liked about that was that, as you said, you start to play with people that you have a commonality with and that you can relate with and that can appreciate what you're doing and you appreciate what they're doing. And what happened in MA40 was also all of my references, people got them. So if I was doing an Austin Powers movie reference, I didn't have a bunch of young kids looking at me going, what's he talking about, that old guy?
Yeah, so, I think that's important to find that, like, camaraderie, right?
Yeah. Now, but when you jumped over to the pro side, because Darryl and I have talked about this a few times on the podcast, is that we're both in MA40, but inching towards the 50 side. We're not quite there yet, but we're moving our way up there. And we're talking that when we get to the 50s, we might be jumping to MP50.
Yes, let's go!
Yeah.
We don't know what that will be like, but we'll see. But
it's kind of funny that we're kind of like on the fence, maybe thinking, shall we do it? Shouldn't we do it? And Kristin's just, go for it. Do it.
Go.
Yeah.
Do it.
That's
Absolutely.
encouraging, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what was the biggest change that you noticed playing at the amateur level to playing at the professional level? What did you find was different and something to be aware of when you're going to make that leap?
In my experience, I think there is a notch more level, one notch higher of seriousness isn't the right word, but the players that are playing at the pro level, from my experience, they want to win.
Right.
Or they want to cash. Like they have a certain goal. They have goals. They're at that event thinking like, I want to do well. And so, and whatever that looks like for them, maybe it's winning, maybe it's cashing, maybe it's a specific goal they have for that tournament, whatever. They are there with purpose. And I think that purpose, I'm just listening. We have a, sorry.
We can hear.
You have a soundtrack going on, is what I
That's okay. That's okay.
We have a foster cat right now. He's so sweet. I was just listening to him meow over there.
Oh, I thought it was carolers.
No. So the players in the pro division, they are there with purpose, whatever that purpose is for them, and so they are taking their time. They're serious about what they're doing. Right. Well, okay, so I guess what it is that their purpose looks like a lot of different things. For some players, that looks like they're really taking their time. For other players, it looks like they are really in the zone. For other players, like everybody's level of play for them is going to be a little bit different. But I think that you sort of just like have to respect that, like, oh, this person is taking their time on this shot, or this person is, maybe someone does get emotional about a shot and it's like, oh wow, that person is really emotional about this shot and I'm gonna let that ride because they, it's just a little bit different than like, hey, we're all here having fun and testing our skills. It's like, oh, everybody is here working towards something for themselves, and we kind of all respect that on the card, I think. Or we try to, and sometimes it's really successful, and then maybe other times it's not successful and we didn't respect it the way we should have, and whatever. So I think that's the biggest difference. It's just like the vibes on the card, and it's not better or worse. It's not good, bad, or ugly. It's just different.
Right. So, well, and what makes sense about that is that maybe for a guy like me who's very gregarious and just jokey and laughy, you probably have to put that in mind and keep that in check, because when you get to that level, your card may not be ready for that, and there's a little more focus that's required. And probably even in your own personal game, you need to have a little more focus to compete at that level.
Yeah. And I think yes, but I don't think it means you totally have to like mask yourself. Like playing in the FPO division in Alberta, like it's lots of the same, all of us all the time. Like we still have a laugh. We still have a good time. We're still like out there, having fun playing disc golf, but it's just like recognizing when those moments come of seriousness, or when those moments come of just needing to focus for a minute for yourself or for your card mates, that you're able to do that.
Right.
I think that applies to any division, right? Because we've noticed it, like you said, in our amateur division, our age protected division, the tournament that I've played in, there was one card that we were playing on where it was, you had to tell so many dad jokes per round, and that was the vibe on the card. The other card, which is obviously the one near the top that we're playing for those top spots, the feeling was a little bit different. So obviously, yeah, you just gotta gauge your teammates and make sure you're not stepping on anyone's toes, but also enjoying it yourself as well.
Yep.
Well, Kristin, when you mentioned there about the FPO being a smaller division, that was one of the things that I noticed in the Alberta tournaments that I attended, that I would see you there regularly and I'd see some of the other women there as well. Does that foster a better sense of camaraderie? Are you guys a group, or is it because you're going up against that same person every time, you kind of get a rivalry? Like how does that work out when you've got such a small, tight group of women competing?
I would say all of that. Like, it's so, we are really fortunate to have that camaraderie, to have each other. It makes for a really unique tournament experience. Like, I've only ever played 1 or 2 tournaments where there's been like more than 10 people in my division.
Right.
For the most part, every tournament I've played, it's the same. You play with the same card every round because those are the only women in your division. But we have so much fun, us Alberta ladies. We start a group chat usually before every tournament. Like the day before during practice round, or like the morning of. Typically it's been Amber that starts the group chat for us. Like, hey ladies, tea times are posted. Like, see you tomorrow at whatever time. Like, we're looking out for each other. Or we're texting each other in the group chat that morning. Like, don't forget your whatever rain shoes or whatever you're going to wear. Like, bring your umbrella, whatever it is. Right. We have a lot of fun, and there's a lot of closeness, and I feel really grateful for all of those women because we get this like awesome sense of community together. And I don't know if it's that way everywhere. Like, I think even in BC there's more women on the roster. So maybe if there's 12 of them, they might not have a big group text, I don't know, but for the most part it's been like 3 or 4 or 5 up to 6 of us in Alberta, and that's kind of it. So playing FPO, there's a lot of other women playing FA1 and FA2, and it's like so awesome to go out and support them. But yeah, in terms of just the division, we're pretty tight. We're pretty close. There's probably a little bit of rivalry. I think I don't win very much. And certainly in 2022, I didn't win at all. Like, that was my first year of FPO, and every tournament I was just sort of like, okay, time to go give my money to Terry, or time to go give my money to Amber. Like, that was it. And now I'm like, okay, I really got to get this monkey off my back. I really want to beat Terry, or I really want to beat Amber. So there is a little bit of rivalry too. I don't know if they feel that way. But it's all really positive from my point of view.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really lucky. But on the flip side, it also is a really different experience than like what the MPOs have, where there's like 50 MPOs registered in a tournament, and they're playing with different people every day, which is a really different experience when you're showing up on round 2 and you have a whole new set of card mates. Your round is going to be affected whether you like it or not. Whereas because we always have the same card mates, we have a rhythm now. We understand like how we're operating. And so there's a lot of pros and cons.
I was just going to say, that's the way that it is, right? It's the pros and cons of the pros of having your same card mates, your same vibe, your same camaraderie on that card. The flip side to that is that means that there's not enough women in the sport, that you're only being on the same card with your same teammates, right? Yeah.
Well, I could see that, and as you said, the comfortability as well, as you start to get to know those players. So if player A is going to take 30 seconds to set up a throw, you're used to that. You know you can take a chance to grab your water bottle or clean a disc or do something that way. But as you said, with changing up every single day, you don't know what to expect, and you don't know the personalities you're going to get that day and how that's going to impact or not impact your game. And so, that I could see the pros and cons for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not very practiced at that at all. Like, I anticipate if I wanted to go play bigger events, which I've done in the past and I'd like to do in the future, I hope it doesn't throw me for too much of a loop, like that I'll just be playing with strangers, right?
Right.
It probably will.
Well, speaking of tournaments that way, you've done a lot of the tournaments in Alberta, and you just alluded to there that you have played some bigger ones. Have you played outside of Alberta before, and what's kind of the bigger tournaments you've played in?
So this year, sorry. What year is it? It's almost New Year's.
You bet.
2024. In 2023, I went to BC. Oh my gosh. For people that are not watching this on YouTube and are just listening to it, you just missed out. You just missed out.
That's a bit of a spoiler for the episode. You'll have to watch to find out.
Oh my goodness, love it. So this year, 2023, I played the Crush in Kamloops, which is a women's tournament put on by Carrie Neal and Christy Shields.
Okay.
And that's a pretty big event that's been going on for several years now. So that was in BC, and that was my first time playing a tournament in BC. Other than that, I've mostly played just Alberta tournaments. And then in 2022, when I was making the jump to FPO, one of my very first FPO tournaments, Tim and I went to Phoenix, and we both played in the Memorial Championship, which at that time, yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. At that time, it was still, it wasn't still on the tour because it was already off of the tour, but unlike this coming year, it was still on the way, right? Like between Vegas and Waco, in the middle on the way was Phoenix.
Right.
And so lots of the pros still played it, whereas this year, it's not on the tour route. Anyway, so I played in a field with Kristin Tatar, with Owen Scoggins, with all those names. Like I was like on the putting green, warming up with those women for the tournament, and it was like my first FPO tournament, and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing here? And I mean, I didn't score very well. I'd love to go back because I think 2 years later, I think I could play a lot better, but it was so much fun. It was really cool, and like those opportunities are becoming less and less and less. The women's division was in such a place 2 years ago where like I could just like register and be playing in the same field as Kristin Tatar. And like those opportunities are fast falling away.
Oh, that would be so amazing.
Did you specifically target that one event, or was it that you were going to Phoenix anyway and that you'd be in that area at that time, or like what made you pick that event?
Yeah, we specifically targeted the event for a couple reasons. We have family that has accommodations in Phoenix, so it was going to be a cheap holiday.
Yeah.
Great.
The entry to get into the Memorial, like it's an A tier, so it's not like Disc Golf Pro Tour like it used to be years ago, but it's not anymore. And so they do like an international wave of registration before their regular wave. So even for Tim, who was playing MA1, because we were registering as international coming from Canada, he could register ahead of all the people down there and guarantee himself a spot, and myself as well.
That's
nice.
Awesome.
So we targeted that event because it was going to be a cheap holiday, and we're like, what a cool opportunity. Yeah. We'd seen it on, post-produced coverage. Tim had been watching, the 2017 and the 2018 and the 2019 footage at Fountain Hill and Vista. So yeah, it was like a targeted event and a very cool event because it's not on the tour. It's just like all open to the public. So like we went and watched all the pros, and we're like standing like feet away from them, and like passersby are like walking on the sidewalk. They don't even understand that this is Paul Macbeth teeing off. And, like,
somebody's just walking their dog or
exactly. There's no one with like quiet signs like on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. It's just like out in the park in Fountain Hills. So really, really cool.
And during that, so you had been around disc golf long enough by that point, and Tim had as well. So I'm sure Tim was tapping you on the shoulder. Do you know who that is? But was there anybody there that you got a chance to interact with, or really became a bigger fan of after that tournament? Sorry, I should stop. It looks like you're ready.
I'm just so
excited.
I'm so glad you asked that because yes, we have two amazing stories. I met Owen Scoggins several times. I just like passed her on the sidewalk, like headed towards the practice green, and she's so nice. I was like, oh, like, you're not waiting in line to get your disc signed. We were just like, it was just like going
Right
for
there.
coffee. And I was like, oh, and like she was alone. And I was like, do you think you could sign I have a Tour Series leopard. And I was like, do you think you could sign my leopard? And she's like, oh, sure, no problem. I'm like, do you think we could get a picture? And she's like, no problem. She's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm actually playing an FPO. And she's like, oh my God. And then the next day at Vista, she parked right beside us. And we were like unloading our bag, and her and Justin are like unloading, and we're like, good morning. And she's like, oh, good morning, guys. And she just like, she initiated like wanting to talk and have this big conversation. And Tim and I were just like starstruck. We're like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
And then my other story is that, and if you have Tim on the podcast, maybe I should leave the other one, because if you have Tim on the podcast, he could tell you.
Well, we could do that. Yeah, we could leave it if you'd like. It's up to you.
The other, I won't tell the other story. The other one is more of an encounter that Tim had, and so I'll leave it as like a teaser for all your listeners.
Yeah.
That there's more.
Be sure to remember to ask him. Yeah.
Yes, remember to ask Tim about who he met at Memorial and under what circumstances, because it was really fun.
Well, Kristin, that's awesome that you met Owen, because I can tell you, is you'll see posted up on social media, they'll say, if you could put a card together, you and 3 pros, who would it be? And they'll give you these selections and you should pick it. And I've always want Owen on my card, because she just seems to be the most friendly, approachable player. And the fact that she doesn't have the big distance and the big arm, yet she competes, and that she is in the age-protected division, and she still wins tournaments or is up at the top at all times. Like, she's a role model for, it doesn't matter what player you are, she can be a role model for you.
Yeah, she is. That's so true. It does not matter your age or your gender or who you are. Like, she is a role model for us all. She's so awesome. I love her so much. Oh my goodness.
And she's just out there to like, she wants to win. You can tell that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she's out there to have a good time. She's always smiling. She's always, seems so approachable. And then on top of that, too, she's such a competitor, because even, you don't want someone to hurt themselves really bad in that. But she doesn't drop out unless she absolutely has to. She plays to the end, and it doesn't matter where her score is at or where she's feeling. She just pushes the whole way through.
Yeah, she's really great to watch. That's so true.
Well, Kristin, one of the other things we were talking about is how passionate you are about the women's game and how involved you are in the Edmonton disc golf community. And Darryl and I wanted to learn a little bit more about that and put that out to the listeners, especially to women who are either just finding disc golf, or maybe the ones that we've asked to maybe listen to help support us because they're friends and family. But maybe you could talk a little bit about women's disc golf in Edmonton, where it's at right now, and what we're doing to get more involvement in it.
Definitely. That is really what we got to talk about.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Forget all this stuff about Memorial, although that's exciting too. So in Edmonton, we have a women's league that is hosted by EDGA, the Edmonton Disc Golf Association, which you guys already know, and I know you've already talked about. And so that was formed a few years ago by Vicky, who is on the EDGA council still, although no longer lives in Edmonton. And
that committed.
I know, she's only got one more year on her term. She's Vicky is awesome. You know Vicky.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think she's the one that got Mark into disc golf. Sorry to sidebar that, but just go ahead.
We got lots of sidebars, and that's good. So Vicky and Joe Henderson, who is pretty like Instagram famous, and now lives in Calgary, but several years ago lived in Edmonton. And the two of them were like, we want to start a women's league. And so they worked with EDGA to like build the programming and get it going. And the very first night we did like a meet and throw at the Hills. And since then the league has continued to grow. It's a really accessible league. So there's all levels of women, like women that are coming out just to like get out of the house, maybe get away from the husband and kids, or, you know, just want to like come and throw with their friends and they don't care about their score. Or there's women that are out there that are playing and getting ready for a tournament the next weekend, like myself, or other players that are like, it's a practice round. But I think the biggest thing is just that we are all there, like building community, supporting each other, having a good time, cheering each other on. The league is really great because it roves the courses in Edmonton, so it moves around to the different courses. So I think this year we started at Hermitage, and then we played at Rundle, and then we moved to Kingswood in St. Albert.
Right.
And then we went out to Niska Paskwahk, and then the year previous to that we had played at the Hills, and then Rundle. Anyway, so I guess I say all of that to just say that like the women's league is super accessible, friendly. You can make it as competitive as you want to make it. You can keep it as relaxed as you want to keep it. And it's another good way to like build that camaraderie and be like, oh, that person throws like this, I want to throw like that. Or, oh, that person does that kind of shot. Like, that's really cool. It's a neat way to compare, not in like a competitive, mean way, but just in a way that's like, I want to get better. I want to learn. Yeah. So how can I do that? By watching other people that play like I play, that throw like I throw, that have the similar distance that I have, maybe have some of the same struggles that I have. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, when I go out and play around with Tim, we have a great time, but we don't have a same style of game. We don't have the same struggles. Like we learn from each other, yes, in some ways, but I learn a lot more by playing with people that are more similar to me, I guess.
Well, and I think too is if it's anything like Jen and I, is Jen will come out and play with me on a Saturday morning. We'll go grab Starbucks and head over to Langholm. She'll throw a glitch and an aerobie, and that's all she wants to do. And I might try to give her some tips if she's amiable to it that morning and that. But to me, I think sometimes as well as when you've been with someone as long as we are together, the last thing she wants is my advice on how to do it. But if she was to come out to a women's night and be able to participate with other women who are interested in it, that would probably be a way better opportunity for her to grow her game. Yes,
seriously, that is such a good way to say it, because I don't want to hear anything that Tim has to tell me about my game. Like, he's sitting over there and he's laughing because that's exactly, you nailed it on the head, Jeremy. And but if you can go out and be in this like pressure-free environment and maybe just ask someone a question like, oh, what disc did you throw there? Or, oh, like, how did you do that? And like start to have that organic conversation, that's how you can start to improve.
And that's one thing that I've had to learn. Yeah, I've been out with my girlfriend a few times, and she'll come out once every couple of weeks and doesn't have the same level of passion for it as me, but she just enjoys getting out and throwing. And, you know, there's that part of me that wants her to enjoy it as much as I do. And, oh, you know what you should have done on that shot? And then it becomes to a point where she doesn't enjoy it. Yeah. And then I have to remember, okay, we're playing different games. I'm here to do my game. You're here to have fun. We're both enjoying it. So, yeah, we have to roll that back a little bit.
And like, again, I can't speak for all women, and obviously everyone is different, but like, remember, it took me like 4.5 years of playing casually with Tim before I was ready to talk seriously about like my shot shapes and the game and like disc choices and like the wind. Like, I didn't want to, and forehand, you know, backhand. Oh God, I didn't want to hear any of it. I just, it wasn't what I was out there for. And and it was 4.5 years before something just kind of clicked, where I was like, oh, and then playing with other women in the tournament, where then it really clicked. So I think that's a great attitude to have, is to just remind yourself, Darryl, like you said, like, oh yeah, we're out here playing different games and that's okay. Like, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how many women would you say are in the league at this point? Where are we at with the Edgar Women's League?
Oh gosh, I want to say
not enough.
Yeah, not enough. Yeah. I want to say this year we probably had between 20 and 30. Maybe more than that registered, but like 20 and 30 that were regularly consistently there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. I like the very first year that we built Women's League, that Vicky and Joe built Women's League, I think there was something like close to 60 or 70 registrants.
Wow.
And about 40 people that showed up regularly.
Okay.
And then we had a dip down, and now the last couple years we've kind of been hovering around this like 20, 30, 35 women. And I think that's for multiple reasons. I think that lots of women came in and tried and had a lot of success, and now some of them play Thursday Rundle League, some of them moved and play Nor'Wester League. Like,
right.
Like the Women's League was sort of a stepping stone, which is fine. And I think maybe some other women just maybe tried it and thought, yeah, this is great and I'll keep playing, but I don't need to continue playing League. But for the last few years, like we've had the same sort of like 20, 30, 35 of us. And I hope that number grows this year, but if it doesn't, that's okay too. Like we have a great group.
What do you put that down to? What year did you say that the league started with Joe?
I think
Vicky?
2020 or 2021. Now I can't remember.
Okay.
I think 2021.
So if we had that much uptake in the first year, the first season, and then it's kind of tailed off just to, like you said, some people try it, they don't like it, they leave sort of thing. What do you think we can do to get more women registering again and try and pick those numbers back up?
That's such a good question. I think a few things. I think number one, we have to limit our expectations a little bit and remember that like 2021 was the absolute height of that boom, of that
right, that's true.
That COVID boom. So like
yes.
Everyone was just like willing to try.
Yeah.
So I think we have to sort of like recognize that was a great time to start a women's league, but maybe those numbers were a bit of an anomaly.
Right.
So we have to keep our expectations in check. I think, I mean, I have my thoughts and opinions on like why the numbers are so much lower, but it kind of would take us down a rabbit hole of feminism that we maybe don't want to get into in the podcast tonight.
Sounds
like
bonus episode material to me.
Right?
There you go.
Over beers.
Over beers.
I think as a generalization, women have a lot more on their plates. We just like spend a lot more emotional labor on our households, on kids, on like just like making sure things run smoothly. A lot of women that I know in Women's League, like Women's League is like their one night out. And so
right.
they're like busy moms, and they have like stuff to do, and they've committed their like one recreational night of the week to coming to Women's League. That's amazing. But
yes.
Probably some other women are thinking like, I don't want to spend my one recreational night a week disc golfing.
Right.
I think like it's unfortunate that we're so low in numbers. I don't want to come on here and be like a negative Nancy and just like talk about all the reasons why. Like we could, like I said, we could go down a rabbit hole. I think some of the things that we could do to help boost those numbers is just like continue to do what you guys are doing. Talk about the Women's League, which we're doing here tonight, which is great. Yeah. I think continuing to encourage the women in your life to disc golf in whatever way feels good to them. And that might
no pressure, maybe?
With no pressure, that might mean they don't want to join Women's League. That might mean they don't want to play tournaments. Like it might take them 4.5 years like it did me, or they might never want to, and that's okay too. I think there's a lot of really great initiatives that are happening. We have a lot of great women's events. I host a women's only tournament every year. And I think just like continuing to make events and the Women's League accessible. So like just making it affordable, making it casual, making it approachable is really important. and making it fun, which we do. We have a really great community of women. I think sometimes it can also be intimidating to come into like a group of women, especially like now an existing group of women. So I guess I would just continue to get the message out that like everybody is at Women's League just having fun. There's no need to feel intimidated if you're a female listening to this podcast. Like there's no need to feel intimidated coming to Women's League. It's just a lot of fun and a lot of laughs.
Yes. Well, and you touched on it there too, Kristin. So anyone who comes out, and maybe if they're on whatever path they're on for playing and they're just enjoying league, throwing some discs here and there, but when they're ready to take a step into a tournament, maybe in the past there might have been a tournament open to everyone, and when you would head to it, you'd go and you'd register for FA4, and I've seen this at some of the smaller tournaments, and that's the only woman in there, and then she ends up on my card with me because she doesn't have anyone else to play with. But this year is, I think, the second year of the She's Up First tournament that you're working on. Third year. Okay. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about that and maybe how that is a different experience than going into some of these other tournaments.
Yeah, thank you. I would love to talk quickly about it. So you're so right. If you are a woman and you're like, I want to try competitive play and I'm going to register in FA4, FA3, or FA1 even, or sometimes even FPO, you might end up being the only woman in your division. And then you get, like you exactly just said, Jeremy, you end up on a card with a bunch of other guys. And like we already talked about with like the pro side versus the am side, like everybody is at a tournament with like different intentions, right? Mm-hmm. So the vibes on the card might not be exactly what you expect. So I, along with the help and support of Tim and Edga, run a women's tournament here in Edmonton called She's Up First. And this spring will be our third year. And I like to do it early in the spring so that women have a chance to come out, try tournament play before the tournament season so they can see if they even like it. And honestly, the intention of the tournament, why we started it 2 years ago, is just exactly that, to give women a space to play that is competitive, to learn about the structure of tournament play, the rules of tournament play, everything that goes along with tournament play, but to do that in a community that is like really friendly, really supportive, a bunch of other women that are there with possibly similar intentions as you, maybe not, but also maybe. And there's a lot of other really great women's events if you're not in Edmonton that take place as well. Calgary does one called Calgary Women Can Park It. It's usually in June. Out in BC, they host the Crush, which is usually in August. So there's a lot. And then like all across Canada. Last year, there was a committee formed called the CWE, the Canadian Women's Event. And they like formed a committee to just like help support all the different women's events that are happening across Canada. So if you can support a women's event, that's great.
Awesome. Now, are you going to continue to TD that tournament now that you've gotten, you've done it a few times here?
Yeah, I'll TD it again this year. But certainly like last year I experienced more women kind of reaching out, being like, oh, like I want to help, and like being able to like bring more people on to help out. So I hope to do more of that this year so that eventually like other women can have the opportunity to TD or to just like learn about that process. As of right now, I'm planning on TDing it. I mean, if you're a woman listening and you want to learn how to TD a tournament, like reach out to me. We can work on it together, and I'll not tell you how to do it. I'll pass on the knowledge that I have, and we can do it together. So
that's great.
So my plans are to TD it this year, and any and all help and support and people that are interested in learning about that process, like, great, get in touch with me.
Awesome. Well, now I want to stay on the theme here because there's one more thing about women's disc golf in Edmonton that I wanted to talk about, because I try to sign up for everything I can, and we've got and I've signed up for putting league, I've signed up for those things, but over the winter here we have a women's specific training program that's happening. So do you know a little bit about that, or that you can tell us about it?
I know only a small amount. I actually don't know too much about it. I know that Brock, who is on the board of EDGA, who is in charge of like helping to organize all the programming, reached out to all the FPO players in Edmonton, myself, and I think Bailey and Zoe and Terry. Anyway, to just say like, hey, we want to offer these coaching clinics. Are you ladies interested in coaching? So as much as I know is that there will be some coaching happening by women for women.
Right.
I'm not currently registered to coach, but I should email Brock, because if there's coaching slots that need filling, I will certainly be there to support. I feel like myself personally, I can easily coach like beginners, like if you like people that, you know, have never thrown a disc. Yeah, if they're just getting into the sport, I'm super comfortable giving advice. For folks that might be coming to coaching looking to improve their game, there's probably other players I'm thinking of, like Terry and Bailey, that are a little bit more technically proficient than I am, that'll probably have more wisdom than I will. So I don't know a ton about those coaching clinics, but I mean, they're happening at Footfield, and obviously I know that's a great space to throw discs, because that's the same space as the winter clinics, right? So, I mean, if people are thinking about it, definitely register.
Well, we can have it corrected in the show notes, but from what I can remember, what I gathered was there's going to be 2 nights for sure was what the original plan was. Yep. And I think, and this part, correct me if you know if I'm wrong, but I think they're actually free women's clinics as well.
Yes. Oh, thank you for bringing. Jeremy has done his homework. He always does running the show. Darryl. Yeah.
He does, yeah.
They are free. Paid in part, like that space will be paid for those evenings because of a grant that EDGA received. A women in action or women in sport. Okay, we'll have to correct this in the show notes.
Okay.
We should get it right. The name of the granting body, but it's something about women in sport, and EDGA received a grant, and so part of that grant will go towards like paying for the space for those clinics that night, and then the coaching that will be volunteer.
And I'll tell you from my experience in the winter clinics at Footfield, Footfield is an artificial turf football field for those who don't know, and it's covered in a dome and it's in the university area. And the one nice thing about that is it's warm in there. You've got solid footing. When you throw your discs, they fly like they're supposed to. As long as you throw them properly, they fly like they're supposed to. So it's a great way to, because you might be saying, oh, it's the middle of winter, I'm not going to go to a clinic. But this is a clinic that you would want to go to, because I've signed up for both of the open ones that are happening, and it is a great time. So I'd encourage anybody to go out there. How do you not go out when it's a free one, it's women only, it's coached by the FPO, all the great FPO players in the area? I think I wanted to sneak in because I could have learned a lot too, I think.
Oh, it will be really, really good. I think whether or not I'm there in a coaching capacity or just an attendance capacity, like I'll be there in some capacity for sure.
Awesome. Well, we're keeping you quite a while. I hope you're okay. You're doing all right so far?
I'm doing great. I'm having so much fun. I hope I'm not talking too much. Good. Are the listeners going to be like, okay, we got snooze?
You can't talk too much on a podcast. You're doing good.
Yeah, we will break a record with you if that's what it takes to keep this conversation going. But if you do need to tap out, you just let us know, and we will make sure to move you on. But
no, I'm doing good. Do we get to talk? You're gonna guide us next.
If there's something that you want to talk about, we can switch it over.
No, I feel like you guys are so sweet. I guess I want to say, if we're gonna transition here into something else, I want to say, like, thank you so much for just like inviting me to like chat. I think another really important part to the women's game is just like hearing from other women in the sport and spotlighting FPO or FA1, or like spotlighting the women's side is really another great way to grow the sport. So I guess I would just say, like, thank you guys for doing that. It feels a little bit self-indulgent to come on and talk about my tournament experience and talk, all this stuff. But really, like, we need more and more and more female voices in the conversations all the time in disc golf and in life. So thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I love the locals aspect that you guys have going with the podcast. I just think it's all really great.
Well, that's awesome. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Darryl.
Selfishly, I don't mind if this podcast doesn't get any views or likes or anything. I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm enjoying finding out more about you and finding more about women's disc golf and everything like that. So, yeah, let's just keep talking. Let's keep the ball rolling. And where were you thinking of going now, Jeremy? Or did you want to take it anywhere in particular, Kristin? Nope, just let Jeremy keep leading the ship. Let's go, Jeremy.
Well, I did want to say, Kristin, you said self-indulgent there. I don't think so. When you're at the FPO and the way you're continuing to improve, eventually here, you're on the local disc golf podcast, but someday someone's going to come knocking, whether it's Nick and Matt or it's Script Locked or it's Tour Life. One of those guys is going to show up and say, we've got this Canadian disc golfer that we want you to meet. So we're just hopefully helping you get ready with our little...
just don't forget about us. That's all we're saying.
Thank you guys so much. You're so sweet. And like, of course, that's the dream that may or may never, might happen and might not happen. But thank you for even just saying that. It's so sweet. And it absolutely fills my heart because, and like I mentioned before, like FPO is so in this balance right now where it still is a little bit accessible for us sort of non-elites. Like I'd like to play some Disc Golf Pro Tour events in the next few years while it is still accessible and attainable. Like, because one day in the not so distant future, like you will have to be like 950 rated and like on the Pro Tour in order to just be able to like get a whiff of that, right? And right now it's sort of still, so it's like a dream of all of, well, again, I can't speak for all the women, but I would suspect that it's a dream of lots of us FPO ladies in Canada and in Western Canada that like, man, we'd love to go kick ass at some big events.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
On it. Oh, sorry. You touched on it a little bit there about future tournaments in next year, and Jeremy and I are always having this discussion about we should sit down sometime and really kind of plan out our next year. Is it too early for you to start looking at that, or have you had a look at what tournaments you want to go and play in next year?
I don't think it's too early for anyone who's wanting to like play tournaments, whatever division they're in. Like if one of your goals next year is to like play X amount of tournaments or you have like specific tournament goals, like it's not too early to be thinking about that.
Right.
Start like following the tournaments that you want on discgolfscene.com. So like when you search an event, you can just click the follow button and then you'll get notifications like when registration is opening.
You're teaching me something here.
Okay, yes. So go on Disc Golf Scene. You can search by like province or by Canada or by state, whatever you want to do. Yeah. So like check that often, and when you see those events that come up, when you click on the event page, there's a little follow icon. Make sure you click follow. Then when you click my tournaments, you'll have a list of all the tournaments you're following, and you will get email notifications of like when registration is coming. So it's not too early to start doing that. I can tell you what's on my list.
We'd love to know.
Let's get some insight.
Because we might be, do you got your pen and paper ready there, Darryl?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm recording it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
he can come back and listen anytime.
Yeah.
During the season, I check Disc Golf Scene. Now, I'm kind of weird. I'm kind of like analytical like this. I don't think you like need to do this to be a tournament player. I'm sure lots of people don't. But I really like it. So I check Disc Golf Scene like at least weekly. And like right now, the last few months, I probably haven't been on it that much. But now I'm like back to like, okay, I got to start like checking weekly. And I just like, I'll literally just search like Alberta, BC, the States. So right now I'm following the 2024 Spring Runoff, which is in Lethbridge.
Right.
This year they're doing the Spring Runoff plus they're hosting it as the WGE weekend, which is the women's global event. And so they are partnered with the PDGA, and their event is going to be a women's global event. And I'm hoping to make it down to Lethbridge because I think there'll be a good big women's field because it's a WGE event. That's May long weekend. I'm also following the Foxwood Open, which is also May long weekend, and I'm just following it because I like to see, like, I'm not going out to Ontario May long weekend, but I'm just following it to like see who registers and when registration opens. Like, that is an event that is a qualifier for throw pink. So that's how Chantal Badinsky got her ticket to play in throw pink, is she won the Foxwood Open, which is an A tier in Ontario.
Right.
So, and these are things that I just know from like watching post-produced coverage and checking disc golf scene and reading about in disc golf scene and like word of mouth and asking around. I'm also following the Tournament Capital Open, which is changing dates this year. It was in May and now it's in June. So keep an eye on that. And I'm following right now the Harvest Huck, which is in Clearwater, BC, because it looks like a really cool event and it's not till the fall. I have more events on my radar, but they're not on disc golf scene yet, so I'm not following them yet. But this is also like where you would go to register for like a big, like last year's Silver Series events, like the Zootown Open, which was in Montana, that had qualifying spots from the Spring Runoff Lethbridge event, like the top two or the top one or top two women that would win at Spring Runoff qualified to go to Zootown Open. And like literally Zootown Open just uses like disc golf scene like to register for their event. So be on disc golf scene and like just be checking it lots and refreshing it lots.
We're not sponsored, but yeah, definitely get on disc golf scene.
Well, it is the tool. That's where you register for every tournament.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What are you guys gonna play?
Well, we had mentioned in one of the previous podcasts, and I know you had commented on there, we were quite excited to see that the Masters Tour is going to have 2 Canadian stops this year, one being the BC Open, but the other one being right here in Alberta, Falcons Flight.
Yes.
And
and I was like, go to Falcons Flight!
Yeah, it's definitely on our schedule. I think that's, if we can only pick one, I think that's probably the one that's more accessible to us, more realistic, but I don't see, it might be just that one special trip that we make and go to the further one, but it's still up in the air. But I think I don't know. I've kind of decided that I think I'm definitely going to go to one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Falcons Flight, you had played that one this past year, did you?
Yeah, I've played Falcons Flight the last 3 years. I definitely recommend it to everyone. It sells out instantly, so make sure once it's on Disc Golf Scene that you're following it so you get the notifications. I would definitely say that in terms of like taking a trip with friends, that's exactly what we did in 2021, the first time that Tim and I both played it. There was like 5 of us that went down and we rented like an Airbnb like cabin that was like outside of Sundre and like made a fun like camp out friends weekend of it. And it's like a great event for that. That's like a vacation, also an event. There's like tons of stuff that happens. The courses, I don't know if you've played them or not yet, but they're amazing. I can't recommend it enough. I can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. Well, I think, to give you just maybe a couple other ones on our radar, we were thinking big times. We're going to still play some local tournaments because we love those, but we're also considering maybe the Golden Eagle out in Battleford.
Yes.
And then I did actually, get this. I'll give you this quick story too, Kristin, was the first tournament I played in was the Tundra Toss this past year. So I played in at the MA4 level. And then I said, what will my next tournament be? And as I'm fumbling around, I think I heard maybe in passing Terry or someone or Riley or someone talk about TCO. And I said, I have a friend out in Kamloops. So my second tournament I ever played in was the Tournament Capital Open in Kamloops.
I love it.
And that was an amazing tournament. The Rose Hill course that they have up there, I understand it's changed and had some adjustments over time. But at one time, they actually had the pros come out and play that course.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing course. And, the other 2 courses are great as well. But that Rose Hill one, some of the views you have. And we talk about death putts here when you're on a berm and you might miss and it's going to roll down the berm. but these were ones where it's dropping down a valley and you're not
down
getting
a
that.
mountain.
Yeah, you better take out that putter that you were going to retire soon anyways.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I love that you went and played that for your second event ever. Why not? I think there's this like idea that like, oh, I have to like ease my way in. Like, no, just go play a big A tier. Why not? You're gonna learn so much. You're gonna have so much fun. You're gonna get like the full experience. Good for you.
Oh, that was exactly my way of thinking, was because I only started this year in about March time, and I didn't sign up for any leagues last year. I didn't sign up for any tournaments because I thought, well, I've just started, so I've got to have at least 1 or 2 years in me before I'm anywhere close to being ready for that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then I met Jeremy, and then next thing I know, I'm registered in Battle 6 in Itasca, and I'm in that tournament. And it was an amazing tournament, and I was like, okay, where can I go next? Oh, hang on, they're all sold out, they're all full, so I kind of left it a little bit late. But that's what we were thinking early this year, get registered and definitely schedule it.
And now that we know to follow on Disc Golf Scene, we'll be all set. So thanks for that pro tip there, Kristin.
Good. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I mean, look at you now, Darryl, too. Like, not only you say like, oh, I registered for Itasca, and you're also like hosting a disc golf podcast. You're in deep. You are in deep.
Yeah, it doesn't take me 4 years to be able to get into things. I just
jump in.
Just jump right in. Yeah.
Oh goodness, that's awesome.
There you go.
Well, to move us along a little bit, Kristin, I did want to touch on a bit about all the work you did this year with the EDGA taking on the Hermitage T-Pad project. Oh. So now,
yes. Do people want to hear this?
Well, we can keep it real short, just to talk just a tiny bit about it. Then we can maybe move to the course review. But the thing is that I got to play Hermitage for League this past weekend. Darryl was just out there today, and that course in the past year has just grown leaps and bounds. And I really wanted to give you that opportunity because you were very instrumental, especially in getting the T-pads in place this year, and just share that commitment, that work that it takes to make a project like that happen.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, first we have to shout out Wally, because I think the course planning was originally his doing. And I think what folks maybe don't realize when they just like see a course pop up or see like volunteer work happening at a course is that Hermitage is like years and years and years in the making. So Hermitage Park was selected years ago. And like Wally, who was the president of EDGA at the time, got the ball rolling and like did a lot of the dirty work to like get all the proposals in with the city and all of the stuff that needs to be done. You may or may not realize like the original course design at Hermitage was very different. Like it was going to go all up the hill and into the woods and down the paths. And like, it was like really intricate. And it was like literally years of meetings and conversations with the city to like, kind of get it down to what it is. Yeah. I really just came on this year to just put the nail in the coffin. It's like, it was a project that was just going on for a long time because not good, bad, or ugly, not anyone's fault. Like, this is just the time that it takes. Like, everyone's volunteers. They're putting in the amount of hours that they can. EDGA purchased the baskets and put them in the ground in 2021, which was awesome. And they had plans of like very quickly doing the T-pads, but it's a lot of work. I come from, a really diverse work background, but I come from like project coordination and project management and construction. And I also worked for a landscaping company for 3 years. So like, to me, the idea of like putting the T-pads in the ground, it was just like a no-brainer. I was like, someone just has to get out there and do it.
You're like, why hasn't this happened yet? You knew exactly what to do.
Talk about being qualified for the job.
There was just a lot of conversations going back and forth, and we had to fill out all this paperwork with the city. And at the end of the day, like, there was just like a lot of talk about it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it.
And you did. Like, you put together...
I don't want to like say that like, oh, you can just like go put a disc golf course in the ground. No, we did all the paperwork. We had all the meetings with the city. Like, it all, all of that stuff happened. But this summer, EDGA just really needed the final push to make the construction happen.
Needed somebody
And
to step up.
I stepped up to be the final pusher to say, like, I'll push this along. I know how to order materials and get them to site and get a crew working and get people going. I can do all that stuff. So I just stepped up to do that. And I'm sure people listening to this podcast heard my many calls for volunteers all summer long. And thank you to everyone who came out to volunteer. It was a ton of work. I hope we never have to do it again. I hope the city of Edmonton will put our next course in the ground for us. And yeah, it's such a great course, though. I love Hermitage, so it was also a labor of love.
Well, and thank you so much for doing it, because the one thing I saw from watching, whether it was social media posts or I got out one night for like 30 minutes was my small teeny contribution. But you got people out when there was mosquitoes and heat and rain. In every single condition, you still got people out, and those tee pads got poured. And now we've got a course that was already good, but moved to great with having those extra options, and it feels like a more professional course now.
Yeah, thanks. And it's permanent now, right? Like, that's the other thing about putting those tee pads in the ground, is like, that is a piece of infrastructure that will remain in our city for decades to come. It's permanent now, so no one's going to rip that concrete out.
No. Okay, well, I've got one more segment, which I think you've listened to enough of our episodes. And what we like to do is we like to do a course review.
Yes.
So this week here, this is actually going to be episode 7. So we've done 6 reviews. And this week we were looking to focus on Niska. And now when we were talking earlier, you had the right pronunciation for me. I know it's called, Goose Meadows is the translation, but it's Niska.
Oh, I understand that it's Niska Paskwahk.
Paskwahk. There we go. Niska Paskwahk.
Which, you're right, is Cree for Goose Meadows, which was named by the Alberta Hospital.
Which is awesome.
Nice.
So now when we do our course reviews, what we don't want to do is we don't want to bore everyone with just a hole by hole by hole breakdown. But what we kind of look at it is we try to say, let's talk a little bit about the course. Let's talk about things that when you go there, you're not going to find out on UDisc necessarily, or maybe a line that's out there on that course, or a course that's aceable, or maybe some discs you should pack in your bag, different things like that. So that's kind of where we go with it. Now, starting out, I'll just maybe get us going here. First thing you need to know about Niska is a semi-private course, is the way I would classify it. So this course is on the Alberta Hospital grounds. And the way you access that course is by becoming an EDGA member. So when you become an EDGA member, which is only $20 a year, so I don't know how you go wrong with that, is you end up signing a waiver form with the Alberta Hospital that shows that you're going to respect the property, you're going to respect the guests of visitors there, and you're just going to treat that property with the respect that it deserves is what you're doing. But once you've signed that waiver, you're going to find yourself on a course that is not crowded, not busy, and in a part of Edmonton that you don't get to see regularly. You'll go out to other parks where you get like little tiny trees that have just been planted or have been there for 5 years. But Alberta Hospital grounds have been around for so long that they've got these beautiful, big, old growth trees that just add so much to the course that you're not going to find in too many other places in the Edmonton area.
That's an excellent summary. I feel like you could clip that. That's a professional summary, and just like have that on a commercial for the course. That's such a good summary, Jeremy. I think I would just add that the reason for the private nature of the course, or the semi-private nature, is that the course is actually owned, like the course belongs to Alberta Hospital. And the reason that they've granted access to EDGA members as opposed to the public at large is because the baskets were donated by EDGA. So the baskets belong to EDGA. They were donated to the hospital. So the hospital said, like, yes, we want to like encourage this partnership. We love this partnership. And that's why it's like a private / EDGA members course. I'm going to let you guys start. I have to just pop out for a second and I'll pop right back. So keep going and I'll join back in.
Good.
Awesome.
No problem.
So Darryl, the other thing
Yeah.
that we're going to do here for the for Niska course that I'd like to bring up is that we're going to expect that everybody listening right now has either A, gotten their membership, they have one already, or they're about to get their membership.
Yeah.
So once you've done that and you've passed step 1, you're going to make sure when you get to that course, there is a specific parking area out there that you need to be aware of. There's a gravel parking spot. So what you want to do is make sure you're there. And then after that, right close to there, you're going to see a basket. And it's a really nice looking basket set up there. That's your practice basket. And I think you have a little story that you could kind of share with people about making sure to know what you're doing when you first get to the course.
Yeah, I think it was early on in my disc golf career that I decided that I wanted to change from Rundle and Hermitage because that's where I was going to begin with. So I ventured out to Niska, and it's very how do I put it? It's not. It's a bit of a. You've got to know the right path to go to get to the correct parking area, because there is a good parking area, or it's a designated parking area that we need to park in if you're going to go and play the disc golf course, just so you're not taking up parking area for all the staff and guests and things like that of the hospital. But as you drive into the area, the practice basket, which is the nice basket that you're talking about, is right next to, I say right next to, it is fairly close to the basket of hole 18. And when I drove up to it, I seen people practicing, practicing for people that are listening and not watching. Kristin's just tucking into the biggest slice of pepperoni pizza I've ever seen. So.
Well, what better thing to eat when you've got a nice beer in one hand, you
Absolutely.
get a nice piece of pepperoni pizza in the other hand.
Yeah. So on the approach, I seen there was people putting backwards and forwards from one basket to the other basket, but I didn't see a hole 18 basket. So all I saw was them using a putter to approach the practice basket, and I was thinking, that's the length of the hole. Like, what am I doing here? Like, I need to go back to Rundle. So, yeah, I immediately turned around and went back and never played it until you encouraged me to go out there. And then I realized, oh, that's just the practice basket that I was looking at. And then we got on to hole 1 and everything like that. So, yeah, so definitely if you're going to go out there, don't go just off UDisc. Definitely go out there with somebody else if it's your first time. And
you actually turned around? You drove all the way out there and didn't play the course?
Well, he saw the practice basket and the 18th basket, and he thought that was the distance of a hole, and he left.
Because I just thought, well, this is not. I just thought, yeah. It took me forever to play the hills because of the UDisc reviews that, it's in the residential area. Don't play it because it's too short. So why am I playing that? I want to play. I want to play the big boy. I want to play Rundle and Hermitage. Those are the proper ones. Yeah. But yeah, that was my first impression of Niska. But don't let that deter you. We're here to tell you that it is a great course at Edmonton. And also, I mean, we've said this before, don't judge it by the first 3 holes.
Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover at the beginning there. So when you get to Niska, you're going to approach and you're going to get to hole 1. You've got a nice big sign that shows you the layout of the course, but you're going to need UDisc. UDisc is going to help you along. Niska actually has T signs there, and they're very beautiful. They look very nice, but there was a little bit of a miscommunication problem somewhere along the lines, and they're not planted at the same distance to the basket as maybe they should be all the time, or not in the exact spot. So make sure you've got UDisc handy, or bring someone who's played before, and they'll help you find some of those tee pads. Being it's a brand new course, they don't have permanent tee pads. It's a lot of stuff on grass, and you'll see the dirt worn down, and that's where you're going to be teeing off from. And as you just said, Darryl, don't judge it at the start. You've got 5 holes there that I actually say are really good in the fact that you go out to a course normally and you go and you make that first throw, and you've got to thread this little narrow line somewhere on your very first throw, and you haven't thrown a disc at all. Well, when you go to Niska, the first 5 holes are a little bit straight and back, forward and back, and it gives you a chance to really stretch out your arm. And then all of a sudden, you leave hole 5 and you hit hole 6, and
Yeah, that's
The
definitely
course
where
opens
the
up.
course takes over. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Kristin, when you've been out, like you've probably played out at Niska a number of times now. When you go out there, like Darryl and I will like to say, you know, what are some holes that we could ace? When you go out there, are there any there that you're looking at and you're saying, this is an ace runnable hole for me?
Well, you guys probably have the same ones that I have. I mean, I think we're all trying to ace hole 3.
Yes, for sure.
What are you throwing on hole 3?
Hole 3? Well, I'll tell you, my throw's gotten a little better, so I'm in between.
I was just going to say the same thing. Yeah.
But I was throwing a Mako 3 is what I was throwing on that hole. It was a nice mid, trying to throw it flat and bring it over there. What about you, Darryl? Yeah.
Yeah, it started off as my Hex Echo mid-range type of disc, and now actually I've dropped down to either my Berg or my Watt, depending on the wind and the day.
Yeah, well, that's the same as me. I always used to throw my Ibex, which is my straight mid. And this year I started throwing my Nomad at it.
Right.
Just like straight at it. And yeah, I think that's like a good ace run. Are there more ace runs? What else are you guys trying to ace out there?
Well, we're not. I would tell you maybe what other holes do I think I might be able to birdie. I could tell you that.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, me too. I don't know that there's too many other ace runs out there. You know which one can surprisingly, I can sneak in there, and I bet you guys both can as well. Hole 11. Even though, so it's super low ceiling with those big, I don't know if they're willows or something else.
They're big trees though. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been able to sneak up onto that green a few times if you just hit it. I don't know, I don't know if it's an ace run because of the low ceiling, but that's like one that's like a feel good birdie. Like I've birdied it a couple times. I'm like, oh yes. I don't know about you guys on hole 11.
Well, I agree with you. I talk about that hole when Darryl and I are out a lot because it was a hole where I could not get to those 3 big guardian trees that kind of protect the basket there. And if for anyone who hasn't been out there yet, it's pretty much a straight shot. You're a little bit elevated. You're throwing straight out to this basket. It's between the right and the middle tree, and it's tucked behind there. And when the summer, there's lots of leaves. I used to have trouble making it to there, but now every now and then I can throw a nice little turnover shot and sneak it in there. And like you said, Kristin, is the times I've gotten the birdie on that hole, I've been super proud of it. It's such a nice one to get.
Yeah, it feels good, that one. I really like hole 11 for that.
Well, and I'll roll right into it. So I really like hole 11 too. So that's something you can look forward to when you get out there. But then what you can also do is not look forward to hole 12 if you're Jeremy, because there is a Christmas tree that it rents space in my head for free every time I walk up to hole 12. So this Christmas tree, it's like this whole nice wide open fairway with trees lining the left, trees lining the right, and then this one little Christmas tree 30 feet to the middle. And the number of times I've hit that thing trying to avoid it, it's crazy.
Isn't that always the way though? If you're trying to avoid something, try and throw at it and you'll avoid it, because when you try and avoid it, you can guarantee you're going to hit it every time. Yeah.
And that's an automatic bogey because that's a long hole. So when you hit first available on that hole, you're like basically, it feels like a retee.
Oh, it does. It's quite far. Well, what would you say, Kristin, when you're out there, so hole 11, beauty for a birdie, is there any other holes that you look at when you're out there and you go, yeah, this is the hole to come out here for. This is just a great hole. I love playing this one.
This year, 17.
Yeah.
Also plays downhill, and it has like those guardian spruce kind of by the green, and then also the sign for Alberta Hospital, which I'm ashamed to say I've hit that sign.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
I think 17 is kind of an iconic hole at that course, and a really fun one to throw. I look forward to 17 when I get there.
Well, you should warn everybody one thing about 17, and we did this to a new player, is I took the new player and we finished off 16, and I said, Hey, why don't you just go head over to the sign there for me and tell me what line you see to the tee, because I'm still trying to figure out my line. Because I think if anything on the course, that's the one tee sign that needs to be moved, because there's that big hedge and it's on the wrong side of the hedge. So if you go and you line up on that side, you don't even know where the basket is at that point.
Oh, that's true. That's so true. I didn't even think about where the signage is. Oh my goodness.
That's the hole that we always ponder back and forth. Which came first, the hedge or the tee sign? Because where they put the tee sign, it could never. I don't know how they decided to put it there, or whether somebody was just going off the GPS and said, "This is where it says. This is where we're putting it."
But as you said, that's a beauty hole, and it's a hole where you really get to work on a shot. Because one of the things a lot of new players instill for me is controlling that hyzer. And you're kind of throwing slightly downhill, and you've got to try and get your disc to hug the right side of the fairway, but not turn over too far and hit the sign. And don't worry, if you hit this sign, it's like hitting a drive-in movie theater screen. It's big. It's taken up a lot of space out there, so it's easy to hit. But you've got to hang that disc out and get it out far enough for it to come back left. But where I think, Darryl, you and I both find ourselves is we hyzer out early, and then we're throwing underneath the spruce trees. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's funny, like when I first started playing, I really avoided throwing understable downhill, because I have a tendency to like really turn my discs over. So then if I was already turning it over and I was throwing understable downhill, like I had a lot of trouble. And so I would often I would stable up to throw downhill. This is a few years ago. And so when I was throwing something stable down 17, I would face the same issue. I'd hyzer out before those trees. And this year I've started throwing understable again down the fairway of 17 and just try to have like more angle control, like put a little more hyzer on it so that I can like get that straight line. But yeah, I hyzer out behind those trees a lot too.
That's what I have kind of fell in love or enjoyed about the sport recently, is that even only in the year that I've started playing, is that the discs that I got in the beginning of the year, I kind of threw all of them and realized, okay, these ones are too overstable for me. I can't throw them. My arm speed is not fast enough. I'll stick with these ones, the understable mids and fairway drivers. But as I've gotten faster, gotten better, my form has gotten better through the year, I'm now revisiting those older discs and thinking, oh, I can actually throw these now. So you kind of fall in love with these older discs again, because you realize I can actually throw these now. They're meant to do, or I get them to do what they're meant to do.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah. Well, a couple other things I want to talk about, Niska, just to keep people in mind here. And one of them is once you get past hole 5, you get this beautiful hole 6. Make sure you got your U-disc or have somebody you know, because when you go from 6 to 7, you get a bit of a nature walk. That's where you have to kind of cross to the other side of the property. And when you get there, take a breath or two, because you're going to be staring down a little bit of a tree gap. So you got to throw through, and you're either throwing a backhand and hyzer turnover, or you've got to have a nice wicked hyzer forehand. But that is something to know when you're going to the course. And then another thing about it too is now move along through the course, get to hole 10. When you're coming back from hole 10 and going to 11, there's a little area there that Darryl and I affectionately call the driving range. So we have this open area that takes you back to hole 11 where they were not able to put a hole due to utility corridor or some other reason like that. But what it's a great place to do is to pack a few discs in your bag that you really want to see what they can do, because you've got a spot where you can throw 3, 4, 5 discs in the middle of your round, watch them fly, hopefully get that beautiful left, flip up, turn over, come back, that flight that we all want to see. That's where you can really try it out, and especially with that brand new disc that you just put in your bag. Have you done that a few times, Kristin? Have you thrown a couple down there?
I haven't, but I was muted. I was just unmuting. I was gonna say that is such a good little locals tip. I haven't done that. I typically don't throw a ton of extra shots during my round, but I might do that next time I go there, because you're right. That's exactly, like, you're walking there anyway. You might as well throw a couple of shots.
Yeah,
we'll do that in the one.
You're not throwing them on the hole, right? You're in a wide open area. You're not searching for your disc. There's a wide open area, and you're going to find your disc again. You're not going to lose them. And you're walking down that way. It's a good distance, so you know you're not going to reach the road. If you think you've got that much stronger of an arm, just move back. There's plenty of room. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then just to wrap it up, Darryl, we cannot leave a Niska course review without you telling us about maybe a hole that's near and dear to your heart, and maybe not in a good way. As he sits there and he thinks, I have the 12
you're leading me on here, Jeremy,
hole.
but I'm not sure.
You've got hole number 13 is what I think.
13,
maybe.
yeah, exactly. I was going to say that's one of my favorite holes.
Oh, is it? It's changed, has it?
Well, it's love and hate, because 13 is so unique. Because as soon as you're standing on the tee pad, you're faced with a wall of trees right in front of you. The basket is protected in a kind of a semicircle of trees as well, which backs onto hole 11. And it's just, you're presented with how do I get to the basket? Which shot do I have to throw here? There isn't a typical fairway shot that you're aiming at. There's not a wide open fairway. I know you're more preferring of the forehand, so you have the left-hand side forehand shot around the trees and try and come in the backside of the green. But what I notice you tend to do on that side, and it's easily done, is to go a little bit long.
Yes.
I guess it all depends as well when you're playing in the year, because the shot that I prefer, or tend to prefer, is the high hyzer over the trees and hopefully catch a tree and hit it and drop down near the basket.
That's so bold.
How do you approach that hole, Kristin?
I mean, the third way would be to try and skip under or go through the tiny little gaps low.
Yeah, I've seen like the skip shot low. I have seen that big hyzer, Darryl. I've seen a few others do that. I think that's such a bold choice there, because I feel like the gap up top there to hit is quite small.
It's a small window, yeah.
And you have to. Well, that's a tough. I'm going to try it next time in honor of you.
There you go.
When you make it, it's very satisfying, but I'd rather just throw it straight at the trees ahead of me and take that chance instead.
Old is so close to stupid sometimes. So which line do you take?
I tend to take the forehand line there, and I'm not a forehand player at all.
Right.
My forehand is very much a work in progress. So I'm not, even though it's such a short hole, I'm not playing it for birdie. I'm just playing it to like work on my forehand, just like try to hit the gap with my forehand. Did I make it through that time? Oh, I got a little further than I normally do. Like, great. And I just sort of like, that's kind of boring golf. That's not as fun as your route.
I have a kind of a side question there. I know we're doing a course review, but you just gave me an insight there. Whenever you go out to a course, if you've played it before, do you go out with a game plan to say, okay, this is this hole, I'm going to go this route, this disc, going to land here, I'm going to lay up, and I should get away with a birdie? Like, do you have a game plan? Or, like, when you get on the tee, are you then thinking, what do I feel like today? How's my game thinking?
I think it's more like what do I feel like today? But I think I usually have I think sometimes I have a game plan for what I want to get out of a round.
Right.
Like, especially during the season. Like, sometimes I go out to play a round, even if it's a casual round, I'm going out with intention of like, I want to play this like a focus practice round where I'm gonna play smart golf and try to get a good score, right. or I'm gonna play this round and try a bunch of new shots or new discs or whatever, and if I score poorly, that's okay. Right. That's kind of more how I would maybe approach it. But I think for the most part, it's like, what am I feeling today? Like,
what are you feeling today?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Right? Is that what you do, Darryl?
Yeah, I think so. For the most part, when we're just playing practice rounds, it's whatever I feel like today. You base it on the course, on the weather, how you're feeling, anything like that. I know we've talked about before, Jeremy, when we've been doing practice rounds for courses that we're playing in a tournament, things like that. Let's focus on the course. What is this course? This hole, a birdie feels like a must get. This next hole, a par feels like a birdie, sort of thing. So we have a game plan in that way, but I don't think we do that at every course, every round.
Usually in tournament practice, and the way we look at it, Kristin, is we'll take a look at the course and we will forget about what the actual par for the course is and say, what does our game allow us to score on this course, and what would we be happy with? What should we be striving for, and what is a okay thing to do? But I'm going to say, we're keeping you for a long time. So I want to take this review, wrap her up. Like I said, we'll have you on for another hour. I don't have a problem with that, but
it just means we're going to have to invite you back again. That's all.
Yes, that's what it is. Definitely. Now,
good.
we didn't ask you ahead of time, Kristin, but we've reviewed.
I know your ranking system. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't worry, I watched.
Okay, so we've reviewed. This will be our 7th course. We wanted to know, did you want to participate if we give you those courses and give us your top 5?
Yep. I gotta get a pen. A pen.
All right. Well, what we can do is we can start to talk about it. We'll get those courses ready. We'll get them lined up here.
Okay, I'll get a pen.
Let's review our standing so far, Jeremy.
Okay, so right now, Darryl, do you want to start with yours, where you're sitting?
If I can remember.
Well, you have Hermitage number 1.
Hermitage number 1.
Rundle number 2.
Number 2. Then I have Langholm.
Right.
Then I have the Hills. And then I have Jubilee.
Yes, that's correct. And then for me, and then for me at the moment, I have Rundle first, Langholm second. I moved Nor'Wester into the 3rd position after our last episode. Jubilee is in 4, and the Hills is in 5. Oh, no, I've got that messed up, don't I?
Yeah, the Hills.
Sorry, I knocked the Hills off. I actually have Rundle, Hermitage, Langholm, Nor'Wester, Jubilee. That's my current order.
Right.
So, Kristin, your courses that you have to choose from here and to give us your top 5 are Niska now, Rundle, Hermitage, Langholm, the Hills, Jubilee, and Nor'Wester.
Did you guys review multiples with Mark? That's the only episode I haven't listened to yet.
Oh, we have episodes in the can. We've got episodes for days.
This is a little inside baseball here, Kristin.
Okay, so remind me of your top 1 right now, Jeremy.
My top is Rundle, followed by Hermitage, then Langholm, Nor'Wester, Jubilee. And Darryl's top is Hermitage, Rundle, Langholm, the Hills. Right? Am I there?
No. The Hills, Jubilee. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, and it's kind of like a biased system, right? Like
100%.
Absolutely.
There is. Yeah. You don't have to support this with anything more than that's what you like.
That's what I like today.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have said, well, if I give you one tip, what we have said is that if we could take you and pick you up off the ground like that little thing in Google Maps and drop you on any course right now with perfect conditions, you're on that course. That's how we judge it.
We're not talking about distance from work, distance from home. We're not talking about any of that. Just take the course based on face value of the course itself.
Okay. I agree with Darryl. My number 1 is Hermitage.
Okay.
I might be biased because I spent so many hours there this summer. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of your sweat, blood, and tears in that course, right?
Yeah. Then I pick Niska. Because I really like Niska. Then I pick Rundle. Yep. Then I pick Langholm.
Woo woo! My home course.
And then I picked the Hills.
Oh,
yes.
Now your home course. Darryl had his fingers crossed there.
There you go.
He's got a thing out for Nor'Wester right now. It's beat him up a few times, and he doesn't.
Nor'Wester's tough, man.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Nor'Wester, and I had a thought about it. I know we're not reviewing Nor'Wester, but I had a thought about it today. I think it's the location. Aside from where it is in the city sort of thing, it's not like because it's far away from me. It's just that all the other courses that we play are natural. They're in woods, they're in parks, they're in natural areas. Whereas Nor'Wester is in an industrial area. It's a park in an industrial area. The roads are close. The cars, it just doesn't feel inviting to me. That's another reason why I don't like Nor'Wester so much.
That's good
gotcha.
Insight.
All right. Well, what we've talked about, and Mark had told us as well, is Nor'Wester's going to improve your game. You play 10 rounds at Nor'Wester, your game's going to get better, or you're going to quit disc golfing. One of the two things is going to happen.
Yeah. And as we said on previous episodes as well, Edgar announced that next year there's a little bit of focus on Nor'Wester to try and clean it up a little bit. Maybe look at the tee pad situation, the signage, the wooded area, things like that. So hopefully we'll get some improvements next year, and maybe I might like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are you putting this, Gal? I'll let you go first this time.
For me. So I've got Rundle, then Hermitage. I love Hermitage too. Like when we talked about it in the episode that you're going to see, Kristin, that you haven't seen.
Not enough to put it first.
What we said was that Hermitage and Rundle, they were like a 1A, 1B for us. Like you could transpose them in some respects just because they're both such good quality courses. Rundle's got that OG factor because it's been around for so long and it's had so much time to perfect it. Now, the one thing I will say when we use the drop-down ideology for this, for me, you can drop me on Niska every single day of the week. I love going out there. I love playing that course. There's a lot of things that I'd like to see improved of it. I'd like eventually to see better baskets, to see tee pads, to see those things happen. Playing in the Alberta Hospital tournament that happened over the summer, we played that additional competitive layout. So there's so much potential to that course and you can still play that layout. So for me, Niska is taking the #1 position on my list.
Wow.
I mean, that's not a bad shout.
Not too bad.
And I think you're probably not alone. I think there's a handful of people that really, really agree with you. There's a lot of good about that course.
Yeah, and it's got so much potential to just grow even more. And to me, just going out there with the big trees and the big leaves, it's beauty. It's beauty. Okay, and then Darryl, your turn, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more harsher than you, Jeremy. But for me, Hermitage still takes #1 just because it has more to offer than every other course in Edmonton. It offers the 2 tee pads, the 2 baskets. Signage will be up soon. It's way better than, not way better, but like we said before, Rundle only has the 1 tee pad. So that's why Hermitage has the advantage. But I'm going to go Hermitage #1. I'm going to go Rundle #2. I'm going to go Niska #3. Just because at the moment, the tee pads are not the greatest, the baskets are not the greatest, and the signage is not the greatest. The actual course, the layout, the playability of the course, I think is up there with Hermitage and Rundle. But if we're taking the course itself, and not just my love of the course, but the actual standard of the course at the moment, it is a full 18. It's in a great location, so that's why it goes into #3. And then Langholm, and then I guess I'm dropping the Hills.
You're dropping your home course?
No. I'm dropping Jubilee, and Hills is #5.
There you go. Yeah. Good. Well, awesome, guys. Well, this has been an awesome episode, Kristin. Go ahead. Darryl's got his wrap up.
My final question. I think we're just going to ask everybody on the podcast that gets this special question at the end. So just imagine, Kristin, you're shipwrecked and you find yourself fortuitously on a desert island, and how lucky you are that it turns out that there's an 18-hole disc golf course there. Which 3 discs are you taking with you to play the course?
Okay, this is going to be a quick answer without I know you
don't overthink it. Just 3 discs. You've got it. Any course.
In the past, I've said 1 driver, 1 mid, 1 putter. But if you want to mix that up, you feel free.
I'm taking a Nomad because I use it for putting and approach. So tick.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm taking a Streamline Jet.
Ooh.
Because it's probably my favorite driver in my bag right now.
Yeah.
And pretty versatile. And I'm going to take... I feel like I need to take something stable. I'm going to take my brand new Westside Warship.
Okay.
I'm still learning it, but I'm gonna take it.
I think they put that one in the Trilogy Challenge packs this year, did they not?
That's right.
That's a Matteo special, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Streamline jet.
West Side
West Side.
Warship.
Yeah,
And
and your Nomad.
Great.
Thank
Do
you
you
very
guys
much,
talk about
Kristin.
yours on another episode that I haven't heard yet?
No, we haven't talked about it yet,
No.
but I've got
Next
mine
time.
ready if you want it. Real
Oh,
quick.
yeah.
Mine easy. And Darryl could almost tell you what they would be just by playing with me. But
Yeah, I know.
for my distance, I've got my musket ready to rock and roll. My musket is what I'm throwing all day long for that. My mid-range is going to be my Glow Hex Lazada.
Yeah.
I could throw that baby forehand, backhand. It'll do everything I need it to do. And then I would be lost on the putting side of things if I didn't have my EV7 Phi in my hand, my PHI. That's my putter. That's what got me my -8 at League last weekend. So.
Oh, yeah, congrats.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I would have to go with my Wave, MVP Wave, as my driver. That's just been so reliably straight for me this off-season. I would go with my Streamline Echo as my straight mid. And then I don't go anywhere without my my Berg as my putter.
Your K1 soft Berg.
Or K3 hard in the summer, depends. Yeah, definitely a Berg in some variation.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, Kristin, thank you so much. And before we let you go, we want to give you an opportunity if you've got anything you want to shout out or put out there, if there's any of the sponsors or anything like that. We don't know what you've got going on, but if you want to, this is your opportunity here.
I just want to say keep your eyes and ears peeled for the She's Up First tournament, which will be happening in May, and keep checking Disc Golf Scene because I'll post it on there soon. And feeling good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, and you're welcome back anytime. It was fantastic having you on the show.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for being our first proper guest.
Yes.
Mark is a proper guest.
Of 2024.
Of 2024.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, thank you guys
Awesome.
so much. Keep putting out great content and
sounds good.
Keep
Thank you.
Rocking and rolling, and let's play around soon.
We will.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
Kristin.
Thanks, Kristin.
Bye.
How awesome was that, Darryl?
That was so awesome. Yeah, just, I just wanted to sit back and just listen and let her talk and the insight that she has and a different aspect than what we get from the people that we normally talk to. It was great to listen to, yeah. Yeah,
and you know what? First episode of 2024. We're on 2 hours here. It's our longest episode yet, and I'm sure we could have had that episode go on for at least another hour easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even realize the time. I know you kind of kept trying to wrap it up, and it was just like, oh, one more thing. I mean, who knows? I mean, we could split this up into 2 episodes and have an episode or a part 1 and a part 2, or we can just release the whole thing as 2. We'll decide that later, but definitely, if it went on for 2 hours, I think there's a good indication that we can have her back on again, and we'll have another 2-hour conversation.
Definitely. Now, the one thing we'll say, too, to kind of wrap up with this is Kristin is, as you probably saw in the interview, is one of the most approachable people out there. So you may run into her at a disc golf store. You may run into her out on the course. But, go up and introduce yourself. She'd be happy to, talk to you and give you maybe a tip or two, or just take advantage of the opportunity to meet these players while they're still here and local. Because if Kristin's star, as it continues to rise, if she ends up finding her way out of Edmonton, then maybe you don't get that opportunity down the road. So take that opportunity now while you can. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a lot that we packed into that episode. Yes. So thanks to everyone who's listened to this one, and we hope to have a fantastic 2024. We're hoping to get a lot of big guests out there. We were talking about resolutions. Darryl's probably going to give me the stink eye here right away. Oh, good. He's got them covered. But we've got resolutions so big that we want to bring you more interviews. We want to bring you more local people. We want to bring you more professionals. And I'm putting it out there as a resolution, Darryl. Yeah. 2024. let's check in this time next year. Maybe we've got Thomas Gilbert or Chantel Badinsky on our podcast. That's the top goal for 2024. What do you say? Do you think we can put that up there?
Is that what you're doing? You're putting it out there to the universe, and some way it's going to come back to us?
That's right. Because
I like it.
If we get interviews as awesome as Kristin,
yeah,
maybe we can get interviews like that too.
I don't see why not.
All right.
Yeah,
but until
absolutely.
then, let's wrap this one up the only way we know how. Have a great week. We hope all your putts go in and...
Chain out!
Chain out!
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks, guys.